Can we please welcome to the Bar stage, for the second time, Mr. Mike Hatchard.
Thank you. Right, well, it's very nice to be here. It feels quite appropriate that as it's Valentine's Day, I'm dressed as the milk tray man. Sure you remember that extraordinary advert where the guy he sort of jumps out of a castle window and then he grabs hold of a helicopter and then he jumps on a speedboat and then he fires an arrow up at a trellis and then he climbs up on a rope, and we're supposed to believe, thank you, at the end of all that, all he's giving her is chocolates. But that particular advert was very prevalent in the 70s, and this is my ward of Upside Down, and the reason you're seeing this is my diary from 1970, which is about the only time in my life when I actually managed to keep a diary. But one of the most extraordinary things, I only came across this the other day, and I couldn't believe it. We've all got stories, I suppose, that deal with the way we were bullied at school, chalk rubbers thrown at us, that sort of thing. I think mine was quite peculiar. There was a teacher called Mr. Hall, who was a PE teacher, and because I commented that I didn't like the idea of basketball practice, he asked me to put my arms up in the air. And I remember this absolutely distinctly. He said, put your arms up in the air, Hatchard. So I did that, and he came up behind me and he went, "Ah!" like that. And it was horrible, absolutely horrible. And it's quite therapeutic talking about it all these years on. I never imagined when I wrote this diary that it'd be up on a screen behind me, but there it is. But all my life I've suffered from a bad back. And whether that's Mr. Hall's fault or not, I don't know. But that's what happened. This is a bit. No, I'm not trying to imply that Mr. Hall killed me. But this is a guy who was my hero, Peter Lebellier. Anybody heard of him? If you ever go walking on Box Hill, there's this tombstone, and there's this guy who's buried upside down. And every time I've been, I thought that sounds great. That's the sort of thing I'd like to experience, you know. But when I read up on him recently, he sort of disappointed me. I thought he'd be this marvellous sort of liberal eccentric of the 19th century. Apparently he was actually a very right-wing. He sounded an absolute pain in the arse, to be honest. But anyway, he got buried upside down, which I thoroughly respect, because that's what I want to do. Now, as I've explained, I've had this bad back all my life, and when I was about 30, it got particularly bad, and the first time ever in my life I cancelled a gig, because I play piano and I'm in the habit of lugging heavy equipment around, and I couldn't do it. And I went to this osteopath in Thornton Heath, and he was amazing. To start with, I just thought I was being conned, because I don't want to sound racist, but he was Irish, which isn't really relevant, except that he sort of said, just lie down there on the couch, and he left me there and put a machine on me, and went away for about half an hour and dealt with the guy next door, which slightly annoyed me because it cost an incredible amount of money, like 10 quid at the time or something. And then eventually he came back in and he said, "Right, we'll see what we can do with you." And he came up behind me, not unlike Mr. Hall in Paul Grammar School, and he said, "We'll see what we can do with you." You know, and he went, "Yeah!" But on this occasion it was fantastic, because I could just walk away. I felt brilliant. I felt fantastic, great. And 20 years later, when my back pain came back, I couldn't find a man like that. In about 2003, I had chronic back pain, I had terrible sciatica to the extent that I could hardly walk. I mean, it really was bad. It was absolutely terrible. And I spent a fortune on osteopaths, chiropractors, I bought all this equipment, all this stuff. None of it helped me at all. It cost me an absolute fortune. And, you know, I'd go to Tunbridge Wells or somewhere, and this guy would sort of tickle me slightly, you know. And he said, "I think that's probably enough today, but come back next week." And it was awful. And then I bought an inversion table, which I don't know if you know, it's a thing that you get on and you sort of, well, it's quite weird if you're not used to it. It's like a swing, and you hang upside down. And I bought one of those to try and help me, and it did seem to help a bit. And then I was doing the Edinburgh Festival, and I walked past this shop and I saw these boots. I think I've got a picture. Oh, that's it. These are gravity boots, they're called, okay? Now there's me, many years on, rather extrovertedly, I suppose, hanging upside down across the road from where I live in St Leonard's. And I bought these boots, and they seem to help a lot. And I thought they were brilliant. I just got in the habit of hanging upside down. I did this every day. And over the years, that seemed to solve my back problem. And that was the main reason I did it. I mean, most people probably assume that that wasn't the reason. They probably think, no, I'm such a sort of raving extrovert that I've got some other motive. But basically, I did it for health reasons. And it did seem to keep my back problems sorted. And then I got in the habit of doing this at Ballantyne's gym. And I'd kind of taken it one step further. I'd learned how to do it in the lotus position, because I've got this theory that if you ever sit in the lotus position, there are two ways of doing it. Obviously, you can have your left leg over your right leg, or your right leg over the left leg. And most people that ever sit in the lotus, they only do one of those. They take it's a bit like writing. You do what comes naturally to you. But it seemed to me that your body would be completely centered if you could do both. And I got in the habit of hanging upside down in the lotus position. And I did this at Ballantyne's, and this young guy filmed me, stuck me on a thing called Lad Bible that I'd never heard of. And apparently, and he swears that this is true, he reckons it had 6.5 million views. Which ought to be brilliant, because I mean, I put stuff up on YouTube, and if I ever get sort of 100 views, I get really excited, you know. I think at my level as a niche performer, if I get 100 views, I think, wow, I've gone viral, you know. But I had 6.5 million views, which did me no good whatsoever, because it was completely anonymous. And the only outcome of that was that Ballantyne's banned me from doing it, because apparently somebody at head office actually saw this, worked out where it was. And this lady comes and says, "Oh, we can't let you do this anymore." So I started doing it at home. Anyway, this is last year. I got invited to participate in a world record breaking attempt from Portrait Artist of the Year, which is a program I love, and every year I try and enter it and fail. But I was part of a world record attempt to paint Lenny Henry from life. And there were 300 of us up in a hall in London painting away. We had 1 hour to do this. This is what I came up with. It's not too bad, is it? But I'm glad you like it. That's all right. When I got in that night, I was Googling world records, because it felt quite good being part of a world record. And I came across the world record for singing upside down. And it was 4.5 minutes, and a girl had gone on Indian television, and she'd beaten the previous record of 3.5 minutes, and she'd gone into training to do this, and she got a lot of publicity. And I thought, you got to be joking. I mean, because by that time, I was in the habit of hanging upside down every day, at least half an hour at a time. That's what I just regularly did. So I thought, I've got to give that a go. And I spoke to the Crown and Anchor. I spoke to the Crown and Anchor in Shoreham. I was just talking about this, and I said I quite fancy having a go at the world record for singing, and they said, yeah, we'll support you. And so I went to the Crown and Anchor, whenever it was, probably the 25th of October last year, and I asked a load of friends. I had a choir, I got a load of musicians, and I was given this frame, which is all part of the ethos. I tried to buy a frame from a guy in Brighton, and he insisted that I could have it. So it all felt very good and happy and kind of encouraging. And I turned up there, and I hung upside down, and played piano as well, and sang. And I think I did 16.5 minutes that night, and I cannot tell you what a bizarre experience it was. I mean, it's just so weird, performing upside down, you know, just utterly weird, you know, and quite odd. But I did that, and I think we raised about 700 quid for the, whatever it was, does it say? Yeah, St Barnabas House. So I felt quite good about myself. And shortly after that, that's the same thing. Sarah Jane Morris, that's interesting, because she was mentioned earlier. Anyway, shortly after that, I was just scrolling through the internet about 2 in the morning, and I came across Children in Need. What are you going to do this year for children in need? So I just sort of randomly wrote down, I'm going to play the violin upside down. That's what I put. And to my astonishment, I got a phone call the next day from BBC South East, and they said, we saw what you're going to do. We think that's amazing. Would you be prepared to come on South come on to South East today, you know. And I'm an incredibly cool chap, you know. I don't get too excited about those sort of opportunities. I said, yes! I said, and I thought, wow, I'm going to go. And I didn't even, I'd actually put down playing the violin upside down, which I'd never even tried. You know, I don't know if it's technically possible. And then, get this, I got a phone call from the big guy, the big cheese, the producer of the national show, and he said, we saw what you're doing, we think it's absolutely bonkers. Will you come on Children in Need in Manchester, you know, the big show? So once again, I thought about it for a split second. I was like, yeah! And, well, to cut a long story short, anyway, thanks to Tim, who gave me a chance to sort of try it out. I tried it out here originally, and then I gave it a go at the Kino, and it sort of worked, and we raised a bit of dosh. And so I drove up to Manchester at the end of last October. I was so nervous about it. I couldn't believe it was happening. It was just so weird. We had this rehearsal in the morning, so there I am with my frame and my fiddle, you know, and there's like 5 cameras around me and all these people sort of taking notes and people powdering my nose and all this sort of stuff, and producers saying, "You okay, darling?" You know. Anyway, and it all seemed to be all right. And then they said, we may not be able to do it because of health and safety. No. Oh yeah, quite well. Bit ironic actually as it happened, but they checked it out, they decided I was fit enough to do it, they checked all my equipment, so yeah, that's fine. And so I went ahead and did it. And yeah, apparently 5 million people watch it. I had my 24 seconds of fame, you know, and came home again. I thought that's an interesting story. And then, that's me doing it at the Kino, I think. You may recognise that bloke there. He looks like he's having more fun than I am, doesn't he? And there it is again. And anyway, so oh yeah, I'll come back to that. So anyway, all well and good. That was it. That was the end of a rather slightly strange phase in my life, you know. And I was able to say, sort of thing, you know, you're talking to your grandkids, you could say, well, you know, I once went on Children in Need, playing the violin upside down, you know, that sort of thing. Just casually throw it into conversation and make yourself sound a complete prat, basically. But and then Christmas Eve, I was hanging upside down in my studio. Just as I said, I do that every day. And suddenly, I've got 2 hoops. I think there's a picture of that. I should probably find it. No, that's it. That was one of the hoops. Now that is a professional gym ring, right? And that's what I used. And these things are designed to, you know, that's what they're designed for, to take a human being. And people suspend themselves from sort of 30 foot up using those things. Well, this one completely broke in half, right? And I just went down like a stone for about this height, straight down onto the floor. There was a carpet, it was a very hard floor. And all I remember was this huge bang. And I remember thinking, my God, that bang is my head hitting the floor. And I think I must have knocked myself unconscious. I don't really remember. It's absolutely weird. I don't remember much else. But all this talk about health and safety, it made me realise I could have gone on Children in Need with an audience of 5 million and actually killed myself. I mean, that easily could have happened. I could have come down onto the hard studio floor. In which case I'll be really famous now, but it wouldn't be me talking about it, it'd be somebody else describing it. Anyway, and then the really weird thing was, so I'm shouting for my wife, you know, because the room is sort of going round, and everything's feeling really weird, and I'm sort of sweating a lot, and I thought, I don't like this. It wasn't that bad, I didn't think it was that serious, but I thought I didn't like it, and I'm in a soundproof studio, and the trapdoor's shut, and I can't really move. And I'm shouting, Nina, Nina! And my wife doesn't hear me. And I didn't have my phone on me. It gets more interesting, doesn't it? And then I realised I had Facebook. Facebook was open on my desktop, on my computer. And I wrote this really cheesy message, but there it is, yeah. This is not a wind-up with somebody from and I couldn't even remember, and that really freaked me out because I couldn't remember Nina's mobile number, but I could remember the actual phone number. And I put that on. I actually put that on Facebook. And as I said, the room was going around like that. It was absolutely horrible. You know, my fingers were shaking. But I thought this is ridiculous. I mean, people are going to think this is a wind-up. And that is apparently what happened, because the phone didn't ring for quite a long time. And I was getting more and more freaked out. I did phone, and well, I ended up, that was me. An hour later, because the paramedics arrived, and I have to say they were fantastic. They arrived very quickly, and I got taken to hospital, where they gave me a brain scan, I think it's called, and established that there wasn't much in my head, which I could have told them anyway, and or somebody else could have told them. And that was it really. And I don't know whether, the next day, I was at, well, after I came home the next day, I was sort of, I was still in a lot of pain. And my head was okay, funnily enough. But I guess I must have landed on my head, knocked myself unconscious, and then fallen over, because I was in agony, my upper back and my left hip, absolute agony. And I said to Nina, this is normally if I get this sort of pain, this is when I hang upside down. And she said, don't even think about it. But after a while I thought, no, I'm going to do it, because I'm in so much pain. So with my daughter holding me, my son-in-law gave me some new hoops, and he's there ready to catch me, got loads of pillows and everything. It was all quite traumatic, but I managed to hang upside down for about a minute, and that seemed to cure the back pain. And then the next day it came back with a vengeance, and I remember thinking, Hatchard, you idiot, you should not have done that. And I couldn't walk. I really couldn't walk. I felt terrible, absolutely. And then after about 6 hours, I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. I'm going to do what I always do. So I hung upside down again for about 20 minutes, and after about 20 minutes, I suddenly felt my body sort of go back into shape. Now this is where it gets really weird. I'm not making this up. I feel absolutely fantastic. I've never felt so good in my life physically. I've cured my back pain. How weird is that? I am not recommending, however, that you give yourself a fall of about 3 foot onto a hard floor. I'm not recommending that. But I do recommend you hang upside down. It's something I utterly believe in. How long have I done? I've got no idea. Probably too long.
15. You've done
15, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it then. All right, that's it. Great. This is actually really extraordinary, but I googled to see if anybody else had been daft enough to play the violin upside down, and I came across one other person that had done that. There's a girl called Daria. She's 30. She started off playing the violin on the streets in Russia at the age of 6, and she was recently featured in a magazine called Get Hastings, where she played the violin upside down. As far as I can make out, she's the only other person in the world that's done what I've done, and she lives in St. Leonard's. We did a concert together the other night. I mean, really extraordinary. Thanks, Jim.
Mike Hatchard, wasn't that fantastic? Mike, can you say some questions?